Hi, everyone. This lesson is going to be about limb 8 of yoga, samadhi, which is step 4 of what I teach when I teach mindfulness, the union of mind, body, and spirit. So it is the 8th limb of yoga and the last of the inner limbs of yoga, the last of the contemplative limbs of yoga. So let's find out a little bit about what this limb is about. So, first, the union of the mind, body, and spirit is samadhi. So, that's the Sanskrit term. And the meaning is that of bliss, completeness, togetherness. Like I said, it's the union of the mind, body, and spirit. It's a state of deep concentration, and it is peace. So, when we practice this limb of yoga, essentially what's happening is it's the fusion of all the other limbs of yoga. Even though yoga is 8 separate limbs, you'll begin to notice that these limbs are all interwoven and occur simultaneously. So, the best way to learn about the limbs of yoga is to learn about them separately and to practice them separately. But at the same time, you're also incorporating so many of the other limbs without even perhaps realizing it. Oops. I'm trying to get this to work right. Okay, let me clear my screen. All right, so the difference, let me make sure oh yeah, oops, I'm trying to get this to work, y'all. So the explanation of bliss. One of my favorite mantras is I am bliss. And I often wondered when I first heard it, what does that exactly mean? So we've looked at some of the ways that some samadhi can be described. So let's talk about how it relates to being mindful. And in past lessons, I've explained that mindfulness is a state of being in the present moment. And meditation is a tool to help you improve your mindfulness muscle in your brain. The first step is withdrawal of the senses, pratyahara. So we try to shut out all of the external stimuli that could be distracting to us. Our second stage is dharana, concentration. So having some drishti, some focal points to help us concentrate and to anchor us in the present moment, such as the breath. It can be a rhythm. It can be a mandala. It can be just a body part, anything that's going to help us focus and not get distracted mentally. And then, of course, meditation, dhyana, which we talked about last week. And like I said, is actually meditation is actually different from mindfulness. A lot of people use those interchangeably. Um, so, when we become more mindful, we become aware of our surroundings and what we're doing at a particular moment in time. We're not thinking about the past. We're not thinking about the future. We're not anxious about what is to come. And the more we practice the 4 steps to exercise our minds, the more mindful as individuals we're going to become. Samadhi is not a permanent state, and it's a state we achieve by practicing all of the limbs of yoga, as well as those first 3 inner limbs that we've been learning about. I can't get this to work right. Okay. Let me clear my screen. All right, so the difference between dharana and samadhi. So dharana is concentration on an anchor. Dharana is concentration for shorter periods of time. So when we achieve samadhi, we are in a state of intense concentration that lasts for a longer period of time. And remember, we talked last week about the difference between dhyana and dharana. And so dhyana is actually that period of time between one thought and noticing that we're thinking and focusing back on that drishti to the next time we realize we're thinking again. And I hope that makes sense, because if you've been practicing meditation in the last few weeks, maybe you started to notice that you're beginning to be aware of when your thoughts are taking over. And you bring your focus back to that anchor, and then you're doing your breathing, paying attention, and then your mind's going to wander again. It's just human nature. So that period between thoughts is your dhyana, okay? When we achieve samadhi, like I said, we're in a state of intense concentration that lasts for longer periods of time. And I once again just explained those small windows of time between thoughts. And as we continue to practice meditation, we're going to become more efficient at lengthening concentration, which will eventually lead us to bliss or union. So this week we are going to be practicing an eating meditation, which is an interesting meditation, one of my favorites. The anchor in this meditation is the item that you're exploring and eating. So before you practice an eating meditation, you want to prepare and collect a variety of different foods with different textures, taste, juiciness. So maybe some tart foods, some salty foods, some sweet foods, maybe even something bitter that you can explore through this meditation. And the focus of this meditation is to concentrate on the sensory experience of whatever food you're eating at the time. So if you'd like to start with just one type of food, maybe all salty foods, then by all means do that. If you want to vary it, I like to use things such as almonds, dark chocolate, um, green apples are a great food item to use for an eating meditation. There's a link in the presentation this week for you to practice your eating meditation. So I hope you enjoy it, because I sure do. All right. And this week you're in for a special treat because we are going to practice Yoga Nidra. And Yoga Nidra is essentially called that because it is yoga sleep. And I include this practice in this lesson because it's a culmination of many techniques. You've got a body scan meditation. There's breath focused meditation included. There's guided imagery in Yoga Nidra. It takes about 20 minutes. So before you practice it, set apart a time where you can find a comfortable place. You can lie down without any distractions or being disturbed by others. Leave your electronics in another room. If you're using your phone to play the recording, then place it across the room so you're not tempted to check your text messages or look at social media while you're doing it. And I'm going to have you perhaps respond about your experience eventually. Let's just pass on through that. All right, so our final thoughts. The final step to becoming a more mindful person and the last limb of yoga is samadhi. It's intense concentration and bliss. The more you practice steps 1 through 4, pratyahara to samadhi, so limbs 5 through 8 of yoga, is going to become easier, and you're going to strengthen that mindfulness muscle. It's not the same as mindfulness. Intense concentration, samadhi is not the same as mindfulness. It's one of the steps to become more mindful. Your eating meditation is deliberate, concentrated eating, and it engages all 5 senses. Yoga Nidra is another name for yoga sleep. Some people believe that Yoga Nidra can be just as powerful as an 8 hours of sleep night. So let's see if I've got any resources. Usually I have resources, but apparently I did not include any on this lesson. So I hope you enjoy your Yoga Nidra and your eating meditation, and let me know if you have questions.